record here. Let's see. Yeah, we are recording. Okay, good evening, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Dreamstruck Tuesdays. This is becoming quite the thing, wouldn't you say? We are so excited. We have a phenomenal panel this evening, and we have some guest speakers from home office. Remember, Tuesday nights are a night that we can get together where we all have permission to dream our wildest dreams. And tonight, we are going to talk about compliance and standards because guess what? That's part of the dream as well. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Lori Wilson. If you want to take it away, we'd love to hear from you all. Oh, actually, before we get started, we invited compliance on, and listen, this isn't an everyday show. We don't always get to hear directly from compliance because they're out in the field helping us. But tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to learn a little bit more about compliance. You might be new to Scentsy and don't really understand what compliance is, or you may not be familiar with the Scentsy standards. We're going to go over some of that and talk a little bit about Field Watch. And really, we want to dive into a high-level overview of some of the top 10 violations that come across their desk, because we want to partner with compliance to help them make their job easier. And then we also want them to help us so we can be a little bit more informed and educated about what to do and what not to do. And why is all that important? You know, to protect Scentsy, the company, and also to protect us as consultants. So now, Lori Wilson, take it away.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here, but I'm actually going to turn it over to Tia Hallfast. She's the manager for our compliance team. She is truly amazing. I hope that you all get to meet her in person one day. I can't tell you how much I dearly love her. So Tia, I'm going to turn it over for you. Just called her. She should be on.
No problem.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, Tia. Oh, you're muted, Tia.
Uh-oh. Unmute herself. Should let her.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry about that. At least I didn't have the cat video over me, right? I don't know if anybody saw that. I wanted to say I love you too, Lori, and see, compliance can be sweet and loving. First, thank you so much, Teresa, for inviting us. I hope this is only the first of many discussions to have with you guys, especially individually. Regarding any compliance concerns, issues, questions that you have. So I wanted to start off with what is basically our primary responsibility in compliance. And basically it is to educate consultants and answer questions. When necessary, we do have to enforce the Scentsy standards to protect your right and ability to operate as an independent Scentsy consultant. So we're really here for you. And we hope you do feel that and understand that. Why do we do this? We do this as an effort to support you and protect your Scentsy business.
I got it fixed.
Okay. Sorry. Did you have something? Okay.
Kelly's unmuted, but she can.
And so when we talk about the Scentsy standards, why are they important? And it's really because they help you know what's required, what's expected, and what's acceptable. Compliance with the Scentsy standards helps actually protect you to operate your business in a healthy and ethical way. And it protects the Scentsy opportunity for all consultants, okay? And I know a couple of people have asked like, well, what is the FTC? You'll hear sometimes people refer to the FTC or the DSA. And so interesting, the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, referred to as FTC, they are made up of, and I don't know how many people know this, but they are actually made up of 5 commissioners. And it's kind of cool. It's no more than 3 commissioners can be of the same political party. They're actually nominated by the President of the United States and confirmed by the Senate. So they're up there, right? They typically serve a 7-year term. And their main goal
Oh, Tia, 1 second, you're muted because we're trying to get people to not be loud. Just a second. You can unmute. There you go. Thanks.
all right. So I don't know at what point I got muted. Did you guys hear about the FTC. You
Yes,
understand?
made up of commissioners appointed by the president. We got
got
that
it.
far, but then it stopped. So
Okay.
yeah.
Their main objective is consumer protection and unfair methods of competition. Okay. Then we talk about the DSA, which is the Direct Selling Association. And they are like the national trade association for companies that market products and services directly to consumers through an independent sales force, which is what we are. They serve to basically promote, protect, and police the direct selling industry while helping direct selling companies and their independent sales force become more successful. And they ensure that their members, and they're really great. They partner a lot with the FTC. And I'll tell you from my years partnering with them, they really help us to kind of be consistent because, we do hear things about other, why can they do this and we can't do that? And a lot of times that's when they don't belong maybe to the DSA. And we want to be in good standing with the DSA because we want to abide by the DSA and the FTC. And it definitely helps us do that. And then I know you wanted to talk, any questions on any of that, Teresa?
No questions on that. I think you covered that very well. So we talked about the FTC and we talked about the DSA being underneath those umbrellas.
And our role in compliance. We really, really are here to help and support you. I know when, just to give you a little background, I've been with Scentsy for about 10 and a half years. I joined compliance in 2017. And we've made, I feel like, a lot of really good positive changes. One is pick up the phone and call us. Yes, we do take phone calls. We don't get a lot of phone calls. Previously, we used to be like, oh, everything has to be in writing. And a lot of times you lose some of that communication and feel when it's in writing. One of the other things we try and do, at least for Region 1 right now, we try and reach out and make a phone call to consultants instead of sending what some people might perceive as that cold email from compliance saying you've done something wrong, using words like violation. So we hope that those things help make a difference. And we're always open to feedback about how we can, improve that relationship. We want to be here for you guys. The compliance team, I can tell you, is made up a lot of people that have been here in excess of 5, 6, 10, Lori, 14 years. And there's a reason they want to be here, and it's because they love what they do. And they don't, we know we get referred to as the police and that kind of thing. And we leave that for the DSA. We want to help educate, and that's really our main goal. Okay. When we talk about the top 10 violations, it's kind of tough because we have, and I don't know how many of you are aware, but there are some compliance trainings out there on the workstation that are available to you. We definitely encourage you to please watch those. We've tried to make them really short little videos. We also have some little posters out there. We've been working a lot more closely now with the training and development team, so they can give it that, the finesse that maybe we don't have here because we're used to talking, more in legal terms. But we would love your feedback on some of those too. We have out there right now things on income claims, personal specials, inventory on hand, e-commerce, promotional displays, retailing, bonus buying, inventory loading, and we had pay to play. We're revising that right now, and that'll come back up as well. And the standards has lots of good information in there too about leadership responsibilities and such. So I don't know how far you want us to dive into it, but Laurie, if you want to take some of those, feel free if you want to start off.
Okay, I'm going to start off with personal specials because I think that's one thing that we probably get the most of. Someone's always saying, oh, is this a personal special, or is this person out of compliance because they're doing this? So I'm going to take a lot of what I'm going to share with you tonight. As many of you may know, we are doing a standards revision. We do those every few years, and one of those is coming up. So I'm going to use some of the information I share with you tonight from that, just because I love this. It's so clear, and I think it's going to be helpful to everyone. So back to personal specials, you all are independent Scentsy consultants, and that means that you can set whatever pricing you want for your customers. But because you don't have the right to set pricing for others, all of your offers have to be made privately, so they can't be seen by another consultant's customers or the general public. So I'll give you an example. If Sally goes out and she advertises a special where she's doing $10 off of a bundle that she's selling, and she does that publicly and all customers everywhere can see that, you might have a customer who says, wow, Sally's got a real better deal going on than Laurie does, so I'm going to go buy it from Sally. So that's why we say you can't do this publicly, you have to do it privately. And I also want to say is that when you offer products at any price, whether that's above or below the current corporate pricing, that is referred to as a personal specials. And as you know, I'm sure you've done it, some of you, it can be a great personal reward for your customers, but there's two terms that you really need to keep in mind when you're doing this. And those two terms are private and public. So as I've shared already, if you're going to do a personal special, it needs to be with private communication. And what that means is it's one-to-one. You can do it through a text, you can do it through a phone call, you can send it on an email, but it's one-to-one interaction between yourself and the person that you're talking to. No one else sees it, just you and that person. So that's what our standards state, that if you're going to do personal specials, and we encourage you, they can be some really fun things, and it does help you establish bonds with your customer, especially if they know that you do this at times. So we encourage you to do that, but just make sure that you always communicate that privately. Now, the other definition on the flip side of that is public. So I just wanted to share tonight that any form of communication that you direct generally or to a broad audience, so it's possible for both your personal customers as well as other customers to see that advertisement, that is called public advertising. And so some examples for that are they're not limited to these, but some examples are newspaper ads, coupon books, vehicle wraps, Facebook pages, Twitter feeds, Instagram, Google ads, temporary event booth signage, flyers even on a bulletin board, you know, that you see at a grocery store or something like that. So again, that is not the place to do personal specials. So Tia, I'm going to turn it back to you to share what you'd like to share.
And Lori, one of the questions that came up is, what about if you have a private group on Facebook for your VIP customers? Is it okay to post personal specials in that VIP closed group?
As I understand it, well, I'm going to let Tia top in on this one,
Yes.
because I'm not quite sure I've got that part right, and I want to make sure before I share that it is right. Tia, are
Absolutely.
you able to answer that?
Yes, and unfortunately, no, you cannot do that
That's
in
what
your
I thought.
private groups. We consider that to be public, not private. And that's why you cannot. It needs to be one-to-one communication, which we consider you're talking with somebody, you're emailing them, private message, but not to a group like that.
And Tia is part of that, because when you get in those groups, you have no control where it goes from there. So
That's right.
Yep.
Yes, that is part of the concern.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Was that it for personal specials?
That was it for personal specials.
And again, those trainings are in the workstation, and personal specials, I'll tell you, is such a huge area for us that we actually have 3 different trainings out there, and it's discounts, giveaways, and other special considerations. So look at that if you're thinking about gift wrapping, those kind of things that we've tried to loosen some of the rules. You'll definitely want to refer there. So moving on, the other really big area we get a lot of is inventory on hand. And I know that, many consultants work, most consultants, I believe, work a part-time, full-time job, or they sell other DSA with another company, right? And some of those companies may want you to carry, I don't want to name any, but they want you to have this large supply of product. At Scentsy, we absolutely don't. That's why the enrollment kit is so cheap. We don't want you to keep an overload of inventory on hand. And in fact, we actually prohibit you from building up excessive amounts of inventory, because what happens is then you have all this inventory that you've paid for, that we want it out there, right? We want to build that customer base. So you can advertise cash and carry sales. You can even say, I'm clearing out some inventory at an open house or similar event, but it has to be for that event. You cannot advertise it and infer in any way that you think or that you have cash and carry all the time. And the reasons for that is basically you're putting other consultants at a disadvantage. You know, if I have this consultant and, you know, they order from me and then all of a sudden they start seeing all these posts like, hey, I have cash and carry. Well, I forgot about a birthday. I'm going to zoom over to here rather than go to this consultant. And we don't want to do that. It just puts at a disadvantage for those people also that can't afford to keep that big inventory. You cannot post, publish, or comment with pictures or videos in a product advertisement showing or listing more inventory on hand than what would qualify as a compliant promotional display. And we get that a lot where people say, oh, this is promotional display. And there's a training on both of these topics in the workstation as well. And a promotional display, we've tried to really you know, we want you guys to be able to be creative, right? You don't want to see the exact same thing all the time. And so we've said like, hey, use one of each product category, but you can't have like 10 warmers and, you know, 10 diffusers and 45 bars, you know, that. And that's our way of distinguishing, because most often those promotional displays are in a retail environment, and we don't do retailing, and we don't want it to appear that it's retailing when you're in fact, you know, are really meaning it to be a promotional display. You also cannot post things. I know a lot of times, especially the newer consultants will say, well, that was my own warmer. I bought that before I joined Scentsy, or I bought that just for my own use. I'm selling a used one. We do not allow that. That is still considered inventory on hand. Okay. You can also, one of the other things that's really big, and this kind of comes in waves. I don't know how many of you participate in ISO, which is in search of posts. We have loosened that a little bit to say, hey, if somebody is saying, I'm looking for whatever warmer, right? I was going to say Jack Skellington, but then that one hurts, right? A Jack Skellington warmer. And you happen to have an extra one. We are okay with you saying, I happen to have one. You can respond to that post. However, you got to be careful that you don't say, oh, I have 10 of those. If they're asking for one, you're allowed to say, I have one. If they're asking for 3 and you have 3, I have 3. So that's a big loosening, I feel like, of the rules, where, because we want you guys to be able to, you know, people need it. Sometimes you can't get things. We all know about limited time offers, right? So we want you to be able to do that and to get rid of inventory that you may have that we don't want you to have. Yeah.
And Tia, I was just going to interject there as well. And we know that many of you routinely would do fairs and shows. And through this COVID pandemic, many of you have maybe purchased for a fair or show only to find out that it's been canceled. And so now you have all this inventory and you want to know what to do, how to sell it. So as Tia's been sharing, just make sure you do those promotional displays right. And then as we look at other trainings on advertising and open houses and those kinds of things, those might be some options for you to help you reduce the inventory that you do have on hand.
Yep. And when you're struggling like that, because we understand the struggle, you know, we say, I've said it probably twice today, we do appreciate every single consultant out there. I'm a person that I could never do sales. And so we do know that without you guys out there, we're not going to be here, you know, so we want to help you. So when you're having some of those frustrations, and, you know, a lot of times we'll reach out to consultants on these violations and they'll say, well, because of COVID, or, you know, I knew it wasn't, but I saw so-and-so do it. And so they do it. And it's like, please don't do that. Reach out to us. We really want to help partner with you guys. You know, we want to make sure we're giving you everything we can, not just addressing violations of the standards. That's the least favorite part of our job. Yeah. You want to take the next topic, Laurie?
Yeah, because this kind of maybe ties into that. I wanted to share a little bit about you can't sell in retail locations. So I know Tia's referenced it a little bit. You can't let customers think that your home, number one, is a retail location that you can they can go there and purchase things anytime they want. There's open house rules that go along with that. But as we talk about retail, Scentsy defines a retail location to be any location that offers goods or services as its primary objective. For example, a shopping mall or a restaurant or a hair salon, those are all examples of retail locations. And sometimes where people get confused is common areas of a retail location, for example, a hallway or a sidewalk, a breezeway, even the parking lots in these retail locations are also considered retail locations. So what you can do in a retail location, you can do a display, again, and Tia has shared what that would look like. You can do a display and you can take orders at that time, but you can't deliver product there. So typically, if you're doing a promotional display at a retail location, maybe you are in the parking lot, or maybe you're at a salon, you can have your catalogs there and your order forms, your promotional display. You can take the order and you can either have the order delivered to that customer, but if you have the order delivered to you, then you would have to deliver it to their home or somewhere that's not a retail location. So just wanted to bring that out in this training as well. In-person parties and open houses that take place in a retail location, sometimes that's all right, must be held outside of normal business hours. And if you're doing that, you cannot publicly advertise or open to the general public. So if you work in a hair salon and you want to do a party after hours, you can do that, but you can't advertise that publicly. Beyond these private events, you may not offer cash and carry sales, store inventory on hand, or deliver orders to customers at a retail location. And I covered that just a minute ago. If you have a retail business, maybe you have your own salon or store on your residential property, you must not sell or appear to sell product through that location. You can only promote Scentsy in a retail location, again, with that promotional display. Tia, anything you want to add to not selling in a retail location?
I think a couple important things that we've seen more, a higher volume of these lately is where when you own a retail establishment, it's really important. We have received reports where, people have like the Scentsy banners in several places in their store, and they have, you can see, and it's in clear view, or you have boxes of warmers in the back. So that's not okay. You got to follow the rules related to promotional display. And it is a critical that even if you own that location, that you are not delivering your Scentsy orders to that location. Have order forms out there, but do not deliver there. We've had people that have said, yeah, but I keep my stock in the back room. No, we do not allow that at all. Yeah. And I think coming off of that, Lori, it makes me think of temporary events, right? And temporary events, and I'm mainly referring to like fairs and shows. And I know we haven't been able to do those lately, but let's hope that we get to start doing them again soon, because those are huge business boosters, right? It's a great networking that you can do. So it's a great way to meet new customers, promote the Scentsy opportunity, and conduct cash and carry, which is a lot of people's favorite, right? A temporary event, and a lot of consultants get a little confused by this, and some of the other standards that relate like to retailing or promotional display. And temporary event, the difference is it cannot be held in a retail location. And a lot of people have questions around that. And if you do, the best thing to do is call in. You're going to get one of the things when we get, flooded with some reports. And I know last year, and I apologize, we had, a backlog that we were dealing with at the time, and we were trying to get people set up at home and all that stuff. So it's sometimes if it's really critical, pick up the phone and call us. We never miss a call. Knock on wood somewhere, right? We do definitely answer our phones. So don't wait and send in if you have a question like that. Now for reports and that, and Lori can go over later how you want to get those to us, but definitely pick up the phone and ask us, because we feel really bad when we get to it, 2 weeks later in some instances last year, and you're like, I already did that, so please keep that in mind. Remember the phone number for us. So the difference is it can't be in a retail location. It has to have a clear beginning and end date. So it can't just be like, oh yeah, this place is open all the time. Okay. Clear beginning and end date. It can't span more than 30 days. And it has to include multiple vendors, and it must be put on by a third party. So you can't just go to somewhere and say, hey, I want to have a, temporary event out here. And, are you okay with me? It has to be put on by a third party. Okay. Any questions on that?
No, so this is really good. We're getting some questions about clarification regarding flea markets and farmers markets.
So those fall under, I mean, if it is considered a temporary event, and I'll tell you, flea markets are one of the big swap meets are one of the biggest areas that people get tripped up on. We want to know the details. And those are why things like that, we're not typical. We don't say like, oh, that's okay. Oh, that's not okay. We're going to ask you the details of it. Who's putting it on? How long is it? It can't be more than 30 days. So usually swap meets will run for months at a time. I'm initially from San Diego. They run all year long, the same swap meets. So it has to have a very clear beginning and end date that does not span more than 30 days. So that's kind of key. But if you're questioning one and you're wondering, give us a call.
And with that, Tia, we do have that small event exception. And that's why, as Tia said, give us the details so we can see if it might qualify for a small event exception. And if it does, if your event does not meet the criteria to be a temporary event, you might still be permitted to participate with cash and carry if your event qualifies for a small event exception. And for your event to qualify for this exception, then you must meet all of the following criteria. So the event must be within 50 miles or 80 kilometers of your home. The event may not be in a retail location. There must not be a contract with the temporary event prior to the day of the event. So this means you would go there in the morning, you would say, hey, do you have a booth open? Can I sign up to do it today? That's what it means. You can't have reached out to them 2 days before and say, hey, sign me up, I'm coming in on Friday. You have to do that contract on the actual day of the event. And then the event must require all vendor booths, who's ever in charge of that small event, all vendor booths have to be set up and taken down completely every day of the event. So you're going to go in, you're going to see if they have a spot for you that day, pay for your booth fee, then you set it up, and at the end of the day, you have to take it down. Now, if you're going to go the next day, you have to do that same process. So we do want to help you do these fairs and shows and these small events. But in fairness to everyone, with these small event exceptions, those are the criteria that you have to meet, and you have to meet all of them. So as Tia said, send in all these details. We can tell you for sure if it's a goal for you to do that, and we'd love to help you with that.
So we're getting a lot of specific questions in the chat, and I just want to remind everyone that Tia and Lori have opened up the lines to compliance. So if you have very specific questions, we won't be able to get to all of them within this hour. Be sure to pick up the phone. You can start calling tomorrow or message or email, so that way you can get those specific questions answered. One more question that I keep seeing come about is, with the events canceling this year, there are some consultants that have been kind of stuck with stock. Are they permitted to have their own event, say a 1 or 2 day event at their home in their garage? Is that permissible?
As an open house?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think that we attacked the events. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure we're going to get into eBay and Macari at some point, but I'll let you continue.
Go Tia.
That actually was my next area. So we use these terms, when I first joined Scentsy, I'm like, e-commerce, what is that, right? So hopefully you'll find when we roll out the revision to the standards, we've really tried to make it easier to understand. And when we say e-commerce, we're talking about a site that offers a direct checkout functionality. And that is something we are not allowed. We do not allow consultants to participate in. And that is things like on eBay, Mercari. There's a whole long list, and it keeps growing every day. But you are not allowed to utilize those. I understand that there's been some confusion maybe around Facebook Marketplace, because we were just notified too that Facebook Marketplace now is offering that direct checkout functionality. There are a couple other sites, I know like Poshmark we don't allow, where they do have that option. For right now, what we're saying is we are going to ask that you not use the direct checkout functionality on Facebook. So these sites, if they have direct checkout functionality, our stance has been, nope, you're not allowed to use them at all, because we would have to be out there reviewing them. And I'm sure we'd be getting a ton of reports that aren't actually violations because maybe you're not using it. So that's kind of been our stand. And I can tell you now that it's been discussed and we're still meeting on it with executive leadership to determine how are we going to deal with this Facebook, because I know a lot of consultants live out there on Facebook, and I don't know how many of you are aware that they are offering this now. And in fact, we've heard reports, I haven't seen the proof myself yet, but we have heard reports that if you put something on Facebook, and you guys know this better than I, because I don't ever sell, that if you post something on Facebook, that they're automatically maybe putting it on Marketplace. Just a quick show of heads. How many of you are feeling that? Are you noticing that? Okay. And I'm not even sure how you can turn that off, because I've been told a couple different things. So we've actually reached out to our social media team, who's very closely tied with Facebook, and we are going to get that clarity for you. For now, what we ask is go out there and make sure that you're not using that direct checkout functionality, because we do not allow that. The only thing you're allowed to redirect them to is your PWS.
And so thank you, Tia. Now we know that and specifically Mercari and eBay are big no-nos. If someone is caught, and I don't know if you're going to talk about Field Watch because we have that going on too, but if someone is caught selling their stock or inventory on one of those platforms, what happens? What's the communication and fines?
So I can tell you it's one of our most critical areas. And so with that, typically your first time that you do it, you are going to be reached out to by compliance, and we are going to impose a fine. And that fine is a matrix that we use, and there's a bunch of different things that go into it. It could be how much you're selling, how much we see that's out there for sale. There are times where I can honestly say there's consultants where you can almost tell they don't know, because they're not hiding their identity in any way. They're just out there doing it because they see other consultants out there doing it. And so that all plays into the matrix, but you absolutely will be getting a fine and a final warning. The second time that you post anything on e-commerce, it is potential for cancellation. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's one of our
sometimes you might find someone using a mother's profile or a brother or a cousin. And if that can be connected, you will still be held accountable.
That's right. It could be one of your good customers. It could be, if we can link it back to you, because it's rare. I don't have many friends that want to go out there and sell stuff that I'm selling, right? But some people find they get a profit. And so it could be legitimate. But the standard is if we can tie that back to you, we are going to hold you responsible. And there's times where it may not be a real close connection, but we can see that the orders are being provided by you. And so we may say, you're not going to sell to that person anymore. Because, and even if they're your best customer, because we see what they're doing with it. And obviously they're not listening to you if you're telling them not to do that. Yeah.
Now, sometimes as consultants, we might get a message when someone is communicated by compliance and they're like, someone told on me, was it you? And can you just kind of touch on Field Watch and, that they're kind of out watching?
So unfortunately, compliance doesn't have a whole lot of time to be proactive. As much as we hear claims that, oh, you guys are out there policing my Facebook, my social media. Trust me, that's not true. But what we do, and this is highly recommended from the DSA and the FTC, we have to be proactive to a degree, right? So we utilize a third-party vendor. It's Momentum Factor. You'll hear it referred to as Field Watch also. And that company goes out and proactively searches for that. And at times we may they used to handle a whole lot of categories. Their main focus right now is income claims and product claims. And that's because those are two of the biggest concerns with FTC. They're huge. So if you're anything regarding income, it's really easy. You put the little statement that we have on there, that it's not typical. And then there's a disclosure you must attach. And that's what Field Watch is dealing with mainly.
Okay, that's awesome. So just to give a couple of examples, if you say, oh my goodness, Scentsy just paid off my house.
Yep.
You're describing an income claim, and you need to make sure that you put the income claim disclosure there. And then also product claims. We have essential oils. And if you go out there and say, oh my goodness, I've been sick my whole life, and now I put this lemon oil in there and I've been healed, that's a product claim. And we are more in the fragrance business than we're not in the medicinal business. So we have to be very careful about that.
Teresa, I could not have said it better. That is exactly it. Because you see a lot of other companies that, and even we've said internally, like, let's say it, lavender makes you sleep, or, whatever it is, but we don't want to do that. We don't want to cross the, that line. That's not the business that we're into. And I could not have said it more perfectly.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the other, I don't know if that was it for e-commerce. Anything else on that area?
No, I think we're good with e-commerce.
Okay. One of the other ones, and I know this especially over the last year, was huge. And this is another one of those violations that we take extremely seriously because it breaks several rules with the FTC, and that is pay to play. And we have tried to really, really define this. It was a little tricky in the beginning when we were talking about effort and, that kind of thing. So we've tried to make that a lot easier to understand and clear. Basically with pay to play, that is when a customer must pay or purchase a product in order to participate in an activity or game of chance. In other words, if it costs money to play or participate, you can't do that. That's not allowed. And prizes, so you can't play or participate, and prizes are awarded by random selection. That's not okay. So I know a lot of people make a lot of money. We would see a lot last year, and it has died down significantly. And so I'm so glad, because that is also your first violation. You're going to get a final warning, and your second violation is cancellation.
Okay.
And we don't want to do that.
And so can you give some examples of pay to play, like bingo?
Okay. Bingo. One of the one, and I know bingo is a huge deal. I love bingo. Haven't been able to go in a long time, but me and my husband are addicted to bingo. But we know it's a fun game, and you want those kind of fun activities, especially when we were doing more home parties, right? You cannot say, hey, pay $30 and you get 5 bingo cards. You can't do that. You can't charge for that. And I don't know all the different ways that you guys are doing bingo, but we don't see a whole lot even related necessarily to bingo anymore. What we were seeing mainly was people would sell squares. They'd be like, I have 30 squares for sale, and it's $5 a square or whatever, and the person's going to win, a certain prize, a diffuser, whatever it is. You cannot do that. Yeah. You cannot also, and this kind of is along the lines with e-commerce, you can't enlist or allow a third party to run a raffle. They're also known as dip, tombolas, or any kind of lottery on your behalf. Yeah. You cannot require guests to pay or purchase a product to earn additional chances at a prize or to increase their chances of winning. And that's like when you charge like extra bingo cards if you do this. Yeah. And that one has died down a lot. And I know it was a tough area because we really didn't have that before. And that came down really hard by the FTC and DSA last year. Laurie, did you have any other hot areas you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'm going to just share one more. We have on compliance, and I'll add this information in here as well. As Tia's mentioned, the best way to get a hold of us is you can call us. You can email us, compliance@scentsy.com. You can submit tickets, and we do get to those just as quickly as we can, because we know these questions are important to you and they're important to your business. And we did want to say we really appreciate when we might be a little behind. Maybe we're doing an incentive audit, and that takes so much time and effort. And it does make it so we can't always get to your emails or your tickets or your phone calls as quickly as we'd like to do. But we have what's called case representatives. I'm probably saying that wrong. No, it's compliance representative, sorry. And then we also have case specialists. So each case specialist is assigned to certain standards, and they're very knowledgeable about those standards. And if a compliance representative who's answering your email or something is not sure, they're going to reach out to the case specialist. And sometimes they assign it to a case specialist depending on how involved it might be. So that being said, I am a case specialist, and one of the areas that I'm assigned to is bonus buying and inventory loading. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that with you tonight. Bonus buying has to do with you're not allowed to place orders on another consultant's account, because sometimes, even though you may not intend it, it might lead to you achieving a new promotion, an incentive, or some reward of some type. And so we don't allow consultants to place orders on other consultants' accounts. So with that, I did want to let you know that, sometimes you may be, you've got a situation where you're trying to sign up somebody and maybe their credit card isn't working, or there's some situations like that. And so you say, well, I can help you. You can use my credit card. Well, if that happens, and we don't recommend this, in fact, we say this should just be really the exception and not the rule. If you run into a situation where you do have to use a credit card to place that order, then be sure to reach out to compliance and just say, hey, this is what happened last night. This is why I placed the order in the way that I did. And then we can document that. And then if it is part of an incentive audit, then we've already got the information there of what happened, and it might mitigate what would happen during an audit if we were not aware of what happened. So bonus buying, again, that includes starter kits, orders. Just do your best to not place an order on another consultant's account. I also wanted to interject here as well. We do a process every month, and we run a report. And again, we're required to do this by the Direct Sales Association. It's called an early warning report. It helps us identify consultants who may be bonus buying. We're not saying for sure you are, but there's some things happening with your account that might lead us to think that you are. So I wanted to give you just a couple of tips on that to help prevent you from being on that report. And that is, as you put your orders in, be sure to include your customer information. Where things go bad, or where you get on that report, is if you're putting everything in your name, because then it looks like, oh, is this person just buying stuff for eBay or another e-commerce site? Do they have the consultant base to support the amount of PRV that they're submitting? So again, we're not saying you're doing anything wrong, really, if you're not putting customer information on there, but your account will most likely get flagged if you are not. Now, sometimes people say, well, I'm buying all this product because I do mystery bags, or I do my own whiff boxes. And we don't want to tell you you can't do that either. So if you are putting in an order for product for those things, or maybe it's even for a fair or a show, that you give that order the title of what you're ordering it for. It might be business supplies, or it might be whiff box supplies. It could be the Idaho County Fair. If your account does get listed on that early warning report, and we start to review your orders and we start to see those kinds of titles on an order, then we're like, oh, that's what they're using this product for. So I just encourage you just to be add as much customer information as you can to your orders. That will help you not get flagged for that. Inventory loading, where that goes wrong is your 70% of your orders each month, or your PRV, I should say, needs to come from customer orders. And so if we're looking at your account and we see that, well, you've got more than that, then that's when we're going to reach out to you too, just to find out why you need all that product and how you're moving it. So just wanted to share that information about bonus buying and inventory loading, and hope that helps you. And again, if somebody reaches out to you on our audits or incentive audits, that's usually one of the things we have to reach out to people about is, hey, we saw you were placing orders on your frontline accounts, and that's caused them to promote, which is giving you promotion points and those kinds of things. That can actually lead to reducing your points, and sometimes it even impacts what level you earned. So I hope that's helpful with that as well. So Tia, what would you like to share next?
I think on that point, I love the point about incentive audits because we know, oh my goodness, you work so hard, you've earned this. People start sharing that information and they're like, hold on, compliance has to do their audit. And we do try and get those through those as quickly as possible. But I know this last round, like we had more than, I believe, 6,000 accounts we had to audit. And the huge part of that is that credit card usage. We understand sometimes with party flipping, there may be some of that, but if you find you're in that, and like Lori said, yes, if you happen to do that, then please let us know. But even prior to doing it, a lot of times I know this may happen on the weekends or late nights when we're not in, but if you can't, like, call us up and let's talk it through. You know, there are other things these people can do. A lot of times they'll say, hey, my downline doesn't have a credit card. And so I just let her use mine and she pays me back in cash. We are definitely going to be asking for receipts and bank statements that shows that that cash amount like was deposited, whatever. And a lot of times people don't do that. People pay me back cash. They owe me. I'm like, put it in my pocket. I got extra money I can spend. Yeah. So you just want to make sure we are documenting things. On the same line of documentation, it is really important. And I understand it can be a pain, but those customer receipts are really important. And let me tell you, when Lori gets inundated with the early warning report and reaching out to people regarding bonus buying, quickest thing you can do is be like, here's my receipts. There you go. We need those. It's important for us in many aspects, not just these areas, that we need to show that you do have a customer base out there. So that's critical. And at least put in, you know, your information on there. We're trying to change some of those guidelines because before it said like put your address or whatever. And I don't think it's necessary for consultants to put their address on there, but it is important for you to put the customer's name, you know, your name, phone number, what product they actually purchased from you, and the amount. This helps tremendously. And we get a lot of times where people will write in and say, you know, missing customer order. That's another one of our areas. And it's really important. And we ask them, give us the receipt. So it's always important to document. And I'm sure you know that as independent business owners, you know, when you're filing taxes, that kind of stuff, it also makes it easier. So if you can get into that really good habit of doing that, I know it takes a couple extra, maybe even a minute or so, please do that. It will help tremendously in many areas that we cover.
Okay, that's awesome. And I know we have about 15 minutes left, and there was 2 hot topics that I know we were hoping to get covered. And you talked about host flipping. Is it appropriate for us to post on social media that we have a free join kit or a kit for $0 that we can offer someone?
No, you cannot use, we really, really want you to avoid words like free, because let's be real. Nothing has been free for you guys. You're earning it. And so you can say earn. We even have bent some of the rules on saying no out-of-pocket costs, but avoid words like free. We don't want to hear that. And like free shipping, you know, because you have a qualifying party, you would have to explain what exactly a qualifying party was and everything. We don't want you using the word free for shipping either. You can do a mystery host and then have them contact you and let them know if they want to join, if somebody's interested in joining, but you want to be really careful on those. Yeah. That's another one that the FTC and DSA take very seriously, and that's any kind of incentive to join. You want to be really careful with. And that's another one where when you use your credit card on that enrollment kit, we have to really explain those ones and have a lot of backup documentation and proof. So avoid that. I mean, even if they go down and take, you know, you can go down and get a temporary money card, debit card, Visa card, whatever, you know, with cash. So maybe you have them do that. But yeah, we want to avoid free.
Okay, that's totally understandable. So someone asked the question, can we say that we have a kit available for no out-of-pocket expenses?
Again, you want to be careful. And on this one, because it's such a tricky and serious issue, I would want to see that whole ad. We get questions a lot of times like, oh, can I say this? We had recently the Skittles issue where people were like, oh, can I throw in a bag of Skittles with this great rainbow, you know, of bars I did? And we're like, I don't mind as long as you're not throwing in, you know, more than 10% the cost of retail. We're okay with that. But then when we saw the ad, we see that it's like a box that looks exactly like Skittles. And it says like, taste the rainbow and things like that. So we actually want to see it. So I would want to see that before
Okay.
making that determination.
Okay, that makes sense. So for those asking that question, definitely open up a ticket, email or call. Okay, one of the hot topics, there's two that's left on the table. One is how can we promote mystery bags and be in compliance? And then the last is cross promoting, you know, amongst other direct sales and so on. Is for instance, if someone is working Scentsy and let's say they have a party going on with a jewelry company or a makeup company, we wanted to just talk about how we can advertise that and be in compliance. So those are the last two items that we had on the table here. Mystery bags, how can we promote, and then also cross promoting other companies.
Okay, so cross promoting, and that's a big one for us. Cross promoting, and you know, we don't have any ties with Facebook. We don't make money off of Facebook, believe it or not. But what we do suggest is if you're going to have a Facebook page out there, you should have a separate Facebook page for your Scentsy customers and consultants. And a lot of people have a separate team page for their actual team, and that's a great idea. What we don't want is, if you're promoting another, especially a direct sales company or something where you have a beneficial interest in, we do not want that promoted to Scentsy customers or consultants. I mean, and it really is to protect all the consultants out there. Because we do hear, like, you know, somebody left to go to another DSA and now they're, you know, targeting my team. And so we have those rules in place to protect all of you. We do not want that discussed. Now, you can be a consultant for another direct sales association. We just don't want you advertising that in any way to your Scentsy contacts or customers. The difference is, if you knew, and we know, Scentsy is built on this family environment, right? I've met the best people ever here at Scentsy, and that includes people at home office and you guys out there in the field. We know that you build strong friendships, but the way we kind of, in order to have that line, what we say is, if you did not know them prior to joining Scentsy, they're considered Scentsy consultants. If you knew them prior to joining Scentsy, we may reach out to you and then you need to let us know, hey, I've known this person since way before, you know, we've even had, hey, that's my sister, that's my mom. You've probably known them before you were a consultant, you know? So we want to avoid that at all costs. I know that on Facebook, this was a big one last week, right, Lori?
Exactly.
It was huge. And we are still going back and getting some clarity on there, because even when, and I know people want to support their friends and family that may be involved in other direct sales, we really don't want you doing that, even promoting it. So even if you put out something like, hey, my best friend Susie's having a Tupperware party, you know, next week, here's her link to, you know, order something, whatever. We do not want that going to other consultants, Scentsy consultants or customers. Now, if you have you have your personal Facebook and you have customers and consultants on there that you knew before joining Scentsy, by all means, go out there and, you know, promote them. And a lot of that really is to protect you, because one of the biggest things consumers and customers do not want, I don't want, because I'm ordering Scentsy, for you to try and sell me every other product in the world, right? So we want to protect them against that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there were some questions about parties. I'm a Scentsy consultant, but I'm going to be hosting a Tupperware party. If I became friends with all these new Scentsy consultants, am I allowed to just automatically invite them to my Tupperware party?
So when it says friends with Scentsy consultants, does that mean they knew them prior to joining Scentsy or after
No.
they joined Scentsy? If they've already, you didn't know them prior to joining Scentsy? No. And I know on Facebook, there was some comments out there and we are working to go through. I mean, there was over 1,000. I actually asked Lori to send me that, and then we are going to go through them. And Chuck and I have talked about that, and other executives in the company, so we can further clarify. But basically it is, you cannot promote that to other consultants, Scentsy consultants that you did not know prior to joining Scentsy.
Okay. And also, if I'm an Avon consultant and a Scentsy consultant, I can't go on Facebook and say, I have a VIP group for all of my Avon and Scentsy consultants. It has to be separate.
Correct. We do not want you cross-marketing in any way. You can't put those in the same ad. We understand you're going to have, again, it kind of goes back to your personal page in Facebook. We don't want to we don't want to touch that, right? But then you have the due diligence of making sure there aren't Scentsy consultants on there and Scentsy customers. You may have customers that you had, maybe you had them at Avon prior to being, Scentsy. We don't want them, as long as you did not get them like from Scentsy, we want to protect our client base, which can, includes customers and consultants. And we don't want that. We don't want them cross-marketed to or promoted to.
Absolutely. You did an excellent job covering that, because I know cross-promoting is a big window of conversation there. So thank you for on that at a high level. I did not realize that mystery bags was going to be such a big question tonight, but all through the thread, can you talk about mystery bags?
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised by that one too, because it's not a huge issue for us. What specifically on mystery bags are you thinking?
So let me give you an example. This month we have St. Patrick's Day. So some of my team members I know, and many out there, are having St. Patrick's Day mystery bags. The customers don't know what's in the bag, what are the contents. And so sometimes the contents could be a variety of things. There could be Skittles inside and a whole bunch of green Scentsy products. I guess everyone wants to know specifically, how can they promote that and be in compliance? Sometimes the bags are like all $10 bags, or the customers can choose, from 3 $10 bags, 3 $25 bags. Sometimes the products are valued at $20, but the bag only costs $15. So there's a little bit of a variety with mystery bags, but that's something that's big that consultants do throughout every month.
Right. And they are huge, man. When mystery bags started taking off, it's like, this is awesome. Yeah. And we love it. So the way we consider mystery bags, if you are going to show, you have a box or a cute decorated box, whatever, and it has like question marks on, however you want to advertise that. Our rule is, if you are going to show or list the product that's included in that mystery bag, you must list the total retail value for all of that product. So the safest way to do it is you don't list or show the product that's included.
You keep it a mystery.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that way you can say $40 mystery bag, and a lot of times they theme them, like you said, with St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day. And yeah, and that's great. We love it. Yeah. And you can put in, it's kind of under that personal specials, special considerations training, where it talks about, as long as you're not exceeding 10% of the retail value of the product that you're providing to them, as long as you're not exceeding 10% of that, you can use gift wrap. I mean, it used to be, we were like, oh no, you can't put an ornament on a mystery bag or mystery box for Christmas or, whatever, the holidays. We've lifted that now and said, hey, as long as you don't exceed 10%. And I will tell you, we get a lot of, we thought this would make a lot of consultants happy, because you all want to show things cute and you want to be original, and we love that. We do get reports on that. And I will say, we have this saying in compliance, which is, put your shovel away. Don't take out your shovel. We don't want to dig. And so unless it is blatantly obvious that you have exceeded, things like a gift card and they show the $5 gift card, or, whatever. Nope, we don't want to see that. We don't want you to talk about what the other items are in there in any way. But as long as it doesn't exceed it, we're fine with that.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. It looks like we still have 2 more minutes. So I want to squeeze in one more thing. My sponsor is the Carol Bishop Hauk. And let's say I don't get along with her, and I've been on her team for 6 years and I just don't want to do it anymore. Can I just call you and ask you to move me from her team? And I want to now join my best friend's team tomorrow. Can I do that?
No.
I was going to jokingly say yes. And then I thought, no, we'll get a lot of, no. And the reasons for that, and a lot of it deals with the FTC and DSA as well, where these are independent contractors, and we don't want to be taking, somebody has taken the time to recruit you or train you. Maybe you just signed up under them, train you, whatever, the concern is, or whatever they've invested. And then we're going to take that person and move them over here, and they were making this person money. We also understand on the flip side, they're there's issues. Not everybody gets along. You can't expect that anywhere, you know, even in your own family. Not everybody's going to love and get along with everybody. So we actually say in the standards that we do not do sponsor changes. I will say, because we get consultants saying, well, I heard you did for so-and-so. One of the other misunderstandings with compliance is we will get people saying, I want to file a no contact order. And when I first joined compliance, I'm like, ooh, we're like official policemen. We can do no contact orders. We do not do that. And it's not kind of what Scentsy's based on, right? So unless there is, I will say some of the examples are, if there's some maybe court cases or petitions for, you know, protective petitions through your actual court, local authorities, those are ones we will look at. Yeah. Sometimes in rare instances, and again, they go through a very grueling process. And I'll tell you the first two, you know, you're going to get, no, we don't do that, because it has to be severely egregious. Otherwise we're jeopardizing everybody's business, and we don't want to do that. Yeah. And you can reach out to, the one good thing is, as a consultant, you can reach out to anybody you want for help. And I'll tell you, even those people that aren't making money off their downline, we have some of the best people out there that are totally willing to help. You know, people sign up and they may live, one may live in New York and one lives in California. And it's like, oh, but I have somebody here, you know, by me that I can reach out to. You can reach out to whoever you want and get that help. And they usually are helpful. And that's fine, but we aren't going to get into, oh, I don't want them making money off me anymore. And that's all they do. They don't do anything. I will say, we do take leadership very, very seriously. And you're going to see when we roll out the new standards that we have tried to really emphasize that, because it is important as leaders that you are providing certain things to your team. So we don't typically find that that's the reason somebody wants a sponsor change. They usually want it because there's been some kind of a rift, a disagreement. And those are things we really don't want to get involved in. We'll help you to try and mend the fences if we can, but you know, a lot of times people will say, well, I don't want them to know it's me. And I don't want, that's really hard for us. You know, they always think they know who it is. Even on every report, they'll say, I know it's Susie, you know, Jones, whatever. And it's not the case, but yeah, we don't want to make things worse, but we will try and help mediate those situations, but we don't typically do sponsor changes. Extremely rare.
Okay, that makes complete sense. And, you know, there is a way out. If you really just have a rift that you can't resolve, you can leave Scentsy, and we'd hate to see you do that. Yeah. But you can leave, and I believe it's for 6 months, and you can rejoin under a new sponsor. So there is an opportunity or an option out there. You just have to, you want to quit or not.
Right. And I'm so glad you said that, because it's really hard for us to say that. And we do have it in some of our emails that we send out. We'll give you that option, but no, in our heart of hearts, we don't want that for you. And, you know, although we get a lot of people that request to come back, even when they've been canceled for compliance, we don't want to lose those people, right? And they may be good people. We want to bridge that gap. Typically, you got along with this person before. We're all different. You can get a lot of your support in other avenues. So we just want to help where we can. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And again, at the end of the day, we are independent consultants. So independently, you can still operate your business. If there is a rift or you're not getting along with so-and-so, you can network, connect with someone else that has the same kindred spirit as yourself. And you can still advance in this business. Okay. Yeah. So all right, I think we're at the top of the hour. I'm getting so much feedback in the chats that this has been so informative, that the information has been extremely helpful to everyone who participated. So we're getting just a flood of thank yous. So thank you, Tia, so much for taking the time out of your evening. We know that you have so much going on, and Lori Willis as well. You all are inundated, and you do a fantastic job. You're not the police. I know that there's a
we're not.
here that you're, you know, police that want to shut us down, and that's not the case. And I'm so glad that we had probably 250, 300 participants tonight to see your voice, your face, that you're real people behind the standards, you know, that do care about us, and that you have our interest at heart, and also Scentsy as the company's interest at heart as well. So many thank yous. And we also have Annie Price, who has been behind the scenes answering questions. Happy belated birthday to you, Annie. But thank you so much for taking your time out of your schedule to pour into us. This has been so beneficial. And this partnership that we have is going to help compliance, and it's also going to help us. I know that we did not get to answer all of the questions, but guess what? The beauty of this is there's an open door, there's an open channel. But before you pick up the phone, before you email, check out the Scentsy standards, because I promise you, you're probably 9 times out of 10 going to find the answer there. And then if you don't find the answer there, our friends in the compliance office has been very generous to say, we'll work with you. So thank you all so much. If there's anything else that you'd like to say in closing, by all means.
Hey,
I just
Teresa,
wanna
also
say-
sorry, Tia, there's
Go
a
ahead.
bunch of training material out on Scentsy Success. If you just go to Scentsy Success, click training, and then type in compliance, you'll see a bunch of posters that show can and cannot. There's videos out there. There's a lot of material out there. And even better yet, we're working on revising the standards, just making them more readable, easier to digest. And with that is going to be a guide called the Compliance Guide that takes you through by kind of chapter. Like if you're interested in personal specials, there's a whole chapter on personal specials with pictures of what you can and cannot do to just make it digestible. So that's in the works. We hope to have that out by no later than the end of April. And I think you'll find that very, very useful. So before all 300 people start calling compliance and asking questions, if you could use those resources first, that would be awesome. And then you won't clog us up. We don't have that big of a team in compliance.
Absolutely.
So first, Teresa, I'll just say I apologize that it took this long to get us together, and a huge thank you, because like you said earlier, this absolutely is the biggest benefit to compliance. If we could have, more of these and get out to this many people, we love being a part of it. And we really, really thank you for letting us do that. Really appreciate it.
And I'll
Thank
just add to that, as Tia has said, we really focus on education. We just want to help people understand the standards, help them know how to use them to better their business. That's what we are really all about. So please ask us your questions. Let us help you with that education, because that's really makes our day to be able to do that for you.
Absolutely. And we love the feedback. If you look at some of the trainings that are out there that Annie referred to, give us your feedback. We want to make those easier. Those came from, we used to have these posters in our compliance department, and then consultants would come through on tours and they'd see them and want them. And so it's something that just kind of evolved. We would love your feedback. And on areas that we didn't touch on, that we may need more trainings out there, we do have a list, but would love your feedback on them.
Thank you so much. Okay. I also forgot that there were some questions at the beginning. Tia, do you mind running down the top 10 violations that you mentioned at the beginning of this Zoom? I know that there's a variety of violations, but there was, I think, a top 10 that you mentioned that everyone was trying to grasp.
Oh, yes. And this does kind of ebb and flow, but typically it's going to be things like income claims, personal specials, which is huge. That could be 10 in and of itself, really. Inventory on hand, e-commerce, promotional displays, retailing, pay to play, bonus buying, inventory loading, and leadership. Those are the 10 hot ones now. Now, if we were in the middle of an incentive audit, that would have moved up to number 1, but we're not. So.
And now exhale. So
Oh,
thank you, ladies, so much again. And I want to close and reiterate, please be empowered. We have so many resources. There's a small team of compliance at home office that's available, but they work endlessly to provide training materials to us, the Scentsy standards. And also, as they mentioned, there's going to be a compliance guide. If you're a visual learner and you want to kind of see a visual, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, that's going to be available and is available on our workstation. So before we inundate the small crew with a bunch of phone calls, a bunch of emails, and tickets, please empower yourself to be informed. And then at that point, if you don't understand along with your upline, then by all means, contact compliance, but empower yourself first and foremost. I hope everyone has an amazing night, the rest of the night. And I can't wait to see everyone dressed in green tomorrow for St. Patrick's Day. Next week, we're going to see Jason Harwood from home office, and he's going to talk to us about reports. So come on back. You all have a great evening. And thank you again, Tia and Lori and price. Have a great evening.
Love you guys. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.